makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Kimberly Wiefling, the founder of Wiefling Consulting and co-founder of Silicon Valley Alliances. She is an expert in project management, design thinking, and organizational effectiveness, and her clients include well-known global brands in many industries. Kimberly is also passionate about making a meaningful, positive difference in the world. Good morning, Kimberly. It's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to chat with you today.
Oh, Nagia, how lovely to talk with you. Thank you so much. You made me wake up.
So now, can you tell us about your journey and what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I was working at Hewlett Packard for the first 10 years of my career. And I always thought, oh my God, how can this place have such terrible leadership? And then I realized, oh, that's just normal. In the corporate world, this is normal. And so I always wanted to fix it. But I was just a lowly little person. And then I would join startups and I was like, okay, I had more power to control things and influence things, but still I wasn't the boss, And
Yes.
I always thought I could do better. I'm very arrogant, arrogance of youth. And then I got the chance to have my own company. So now I tell people, oh yeah, I work for myself. I'm an entrepreneur. I have an asshole for a boss and my employees are robbing me blind. That's because it's all me. I have no one left to blame. Nagila.
Oh my goodness, I love it. So how did Wiefling Consulting come to be and what inspired you to found that?
Well, I ran into some people called the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs many years ago, back in the last century. And they somehow convinced me that I could start a business simply by putting up a website and printing out some business cards and telling people I was in business. And I was like, okay, I was still working full time at Hewlett Packard at the time, but I did it. And I started telling people, oh yeah, I'm a career coach. And I started my first business like that. And I didn't make any money. And I would tell people, no, I'll do a free hour for you in exchange for your feedback. And maybe testimonial or refer me to other people. So eventually, after years of this, I started making a little bit of money. And it wasn't until, my God, like 10 years later that I started making my living that way. But you can start a business easy. You just make a website, print some business cards, tell people you're in business. They'll believe you.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I wish that was the truth, though.
It is the truth, because as long as you don't need to make money, you're fine, right? Like if you have a full-time job and then you start a business on the side, you don't really need to make your living from it. But the cool thing is suddenly many things start to be tax deductions and you start thinking more like an entrepreneur. And for me, it's like practicing. It's prototype entrepreneurship. And when I eventually got the chance to truly start my business and I needed to provide my living, my money that I needed to live on, then I had all those years of practice. So I think it's a great way. Start your business when you don't really need the money.
You're right, because we're not really thinking about it. But the only bad thing about that is I think the money you're going to spend at the beginning, because even the website, you spend money on it, the business cards, you spend money on it. Meeting with people is also, you spend time is money. Also, you're wasting. But you're right. If you don't really need the money, it's okay. But if you really need the money, just the website is not going to get you there.
Oh, hell, you can put up a website using all these WordPress things. You can do it yourself. Put up a crappy one. You can do that in 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be great. And print up your business cards. You have a printer, you print them up at home, cut up with a paper cutter or some scissors. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Less than $100, you can start your own business. That's the cool thing. I learned that. I go to India. Last month, I was in India. Everyone there is entrepreneur. They're on the street selling watermelons, selling some beads they made, some kind of necklace. They just go and pick something off a tree and sell it. That's a business.
Yes, it is. It's a business. And we just don't look at it this way.
Yeah.
So now, what services does Wiefling Consulting offer, and how do they help companies succeed?
Yeah. Well, the sad truth, I mean, my background is as a physicist and scientist and engineer. And so I really like to base what I do on data. Although I look like a charming fashion model, right? I'm really a scientist and engineer. And it turns out that the top causes of failure in global teams is number one, they don't build trusting relationships. They don't even take time to get to know each other. And number two is they don't communicate effectively. And it's not just language or culture. It's they don't know how to solve problems together. They don't know how to make decisions together. And then 3 and 4 is basically they don't have clear, shared, aligned goals that people can focus on supporting. And if you think about, whose job is that? To build trust, communicate effectively, clear, shared, aligned goals. That's completely a failure of leadership.
Yes.
So what we do, what me and my team at Silicon Valley Alliance does, is we help people overcome those completely predictable, largely avoidable causes of failure to learn how to implement what's known to work for global leadership. It's not rocket science. You do these 6 things, these 30 things, and people will think you're a great leader. And we help them put it into practice through our work shock therapy learning labs that changes behavior, thinking, and communication. Not just try to make you smarter, right? If people just needed to be smarter, nobody would smoke cigarettes and everybody would be rich and thin. No, we get you into the learning lab and you work out on these exercises so you can do it.
Why do I feel like you take the scientist, the engineering, you take all of this, you put it into your practice and you push that and, you get them to learn in that way as well? Because even when you're talking, you put lab, like the words you are using, it's almost like into the scientist, into the engineering world.
Well, I live in Silicon Valley, California, and there's a lot of technical, maybe not arrogance, but so much as a little skeptical, does this really work? And these human skills are sometimes called soft skills. They're sometimes called touchy-feely crap, but they are at the root of the biggest challenges we face. So I really understand, because I was like that when I was younger. I needed to be convinced that this stuff mattered. I didn't want to just believe it. I wanted to focus on the task. And I didn't realize the relationships would help me get the results.
And then you create that. You saw the need, the issues. It's like it's almost every company. So you create that space for them. So now that get me to: do you work with small businesses, big corporations? Where do you stand?
I work with everybody, but only the big businesses can afford to pay me. So I work mostly with globalizing Japanese companies. We've worked with some really big brands over the years like Suntory and Yamaha Motors. Right now, we're working with a couple of big Japanese companies that one of them I've been working with for 16 years, doing a really long 7-month leadership development program. And we're on the 20th version of that. Another company we've been working with for about 8 or 9 years, and we're on like the 15th or 20th version of their smaller leadership program. But when I mostly work with these big companies, I love to do that because it has a huge impact, because one of these companies does business in 110 different countries. Ooh. So if we can influence them, we can influence the whole world. But then I love working with startups and founders. So I volunteer with a Founder Institute. I'm a mentor there. They don't pay me money. I just get the joy of working with entrepreneurs, helping them understand, take necessary risks, learn from mistakes, prototype, experiment, fail forward. Woohoo!
Are you always that vibe?
No, sometimes I'm more vibrant because I'm a little jet lagged right now.
Oh my goodness, you are so awesome. So, I know that you say you work right now, big corporation that's who can afford to pay you. But let's say that a small business with about 25 employees reach out to you. Would you still help them out?
Oh, sure. Actually, I was working with a small 25-person company in India a couple weeks ago. And, I said, hey, I'll be in Japan. Fly me to India, put me up in a hotel, pay for my food and drinks, and travel me around India a bit, and I will help you. and I will learn. So, if there's something to be gained, if it's mutually beneficial, we will do a prototype or an experiment with different businesses to see if it's a fit. And some of these businesses during the pandemic, last few years, we have said, hey, pandemic pricing free. If you don't have budget, we don't care. We'll help you. And one of these businesses was a startup company. We did like 4 2-hour workshops for them over a couple of months. And even though we told them they didn't have to pay, they still sent us thousands of dollars and said this was so worth it. And a couple of other businesses, big businesses that we offered to help during the pandemic, to build relationships. It wasn't a time to make money. It was a time to strengthen relationships. We did a lot of free work for them. And after 2 months, both of these companies said, hey, Kimberly, we've got to start paying you. So that's how we pivoted to virtual paying work, is through helping people and having them see our value and insisting on paying us.
Wow, I love that method, because what you do will work. It's work. It's worth it. So you have no doubt about it. So that this is a client already. It's just a matter of time for them to make that decision.
And for me, at my stage of my career, about 5 years ago, I looked at my bank account and I said, I have enough for beer and pretzels retirement. I don't need champagne and caviar retirement. So I'm not going to do anything for money that I wouldn't do for free. And I am passionate about helping people, teams, and organizations overcome these predictable and avoidable causes of failure. I wrote a book about it many years ago, Scrappy Project Management, and I'm on a mission because, Nagilia, I'm telling you, you can't drive a car where I live without having a license. But you can be the CEO of a company, the leader of a team, the manager of a department without knowing anything about leadership. It's crazy.
I don't even know where they come with that, because sometimes I saw companies, they have employees that's been working for them for years that know the products, that know the leadership. They know everything, but they hiring someone completely new with no skills instead, which makes no sense to me. So do you know why that happened?
Well, I think there's a lot of weird things that go on in organizations. The number one thing that I see happening is learned helplessness. For example, I work with workers and I try to get them to take some responsibility for improving the situation or changing the problems that they're facing. And they tell me, yeah, but it's our manager's fault. Then I talk to the managers, work with the managers, and they're telling me, yeah, but Kimberly, it's the executives who are really need to change. Then I go get the executives together and we talk about, and they say, Kimberly, it's really the president who's really the problem. And I'm like, president. I'm like, okay. And then president says, well, when the chairman finally dies, we'll be able to make. I'm like, excuse me. Did aliens land here, set up sick, twisted, dysfunctional companies that suck your will to live, and then leave planet Earth? I can't find anybody who feels responsible for it. So that's the biggest challenge, is how do we get people to say, look, regardless of who's to blame, I'm going to own contributing to making it better, to fixing it, overcoming these challenges.
So now when you get to these people, from the employees to the manager, to the CEO, to the chairman, and none of them knows what to do. So what do you do at this point?
Well, what I'm learning now is better, because I used to just interview a bunch of people and say, what's working, what's not working, what's missing, and if anything were possible, magic wand, what would you change? And then I would share that information. But then when information came back that said, ooh, somehow the executives are somehow contributing a little bit to these problems, I would tell the executives, and they would say, who said that? First question, who said that? So now what I do is I get the executives to get out there in front of their people and say, hey, we need your help. Here's our goals. Here's the kind of leader I want to be for you and for this team, for this company. Help us. And then we get them together in a workshop, like when I did in Kerala, India, Thiruvananthapuram, a couple of weeks ago. We had all the leaders together, and then we brought all the people together, the whole company, all together in one room, learning together what to do to move into a new space, to create a new future together.
Wow, I love that. So now, do you only offer workshops, or do you also do one-on-one coaching or anything like that with the CEOs or the leaders of the company?
I do the one-on-one with the CEOs. Yes, I do meet individually with people, and I don't really do long-term coaching. For me, it's like, okay, I'll help you go through some transition or some challenge that you're facing, but I'm not like a long-term meet me every week or every month kind of coach. I have other friends and colleagues that do that. I'm more like a parachute in, run around across the crazy jungle and help get to a point where you are self-sustaining. And then, even better than a coach is to have some thinking partners, like some peers that you can meet with on a regular basis, that you hold each other accountable and help each other. So it's peer coaching.
Sure.
So I do a little one-on-one coaching. Happy to do it. It's just not my main thing.
But you mostly focus just in workshops, trainings, and things like that.
Workshop. I never call it training because I say training is for circus animals. I say get into the learning lab and I will hold the space for your greatness. And also I do keynote speaking. I mean, I've flown to Bulgaria and Slovenia and Australia and other places to do keynotes because of my book, Scrappy Project Management. And that's a lot of fun because I'll be on the stage, in Bulgaria, 2,000 people in the audience. And I say, raise your hand if you like to be managed. And no one will raise their hand. And I say, is it a language problem? Do you understand? Kimberly, we understand your English. We don't like to be managed. I know, nobody likes to be managed. Manage cows, lead people.
So now can you tell us about the book?
Well, my first book, Scrappy Project Management, I wrote it because I was leading product development programs, hardware, software, firmware. And at the end of every project, we have something called a post-mortem or a post-project review. And we're supposed to do this, lessons learned, mistakes we made that we learned from. And I was like, oh my gosh, the list is always exactly the same. And there was even a template on one website, projectconnections.com, that I used to write for. And they had a template you could download where you could just check off, yeah, we did this wrong, we did this wrong, all the things we did wrong. I'm like, no. So I said, let's make new and more exciting mistakes. So let's learn and avoid these 12 mistakes at the beginning. And then at the end, we'll have completely unpredictable and completely unavoidable causes of failure if we do fail.
Wow. So where can someone get the book?
Oh, Amazon. All my books are on Amazon. You can get them used. The Kindle is the most popular these days. And there's also some videos to support it. I think you can get those free. Just search for Kimberly Wiefling, Scrappy Project Management. You'll find it. And then I wrote this book, Inspired Organizational Cultures. It's just basically a workbook. It's not, like you read it through. It's like a workbook on organizational cultures that goes with a workshop that we do called Organizational Cultures and DNA. And it's in Japanese and English. And my other book is published in Japanese also by Nikkei Business Press. Woo! But this book, it has a foreword by Dr. Edgar Schein. Now, he was my mentor for many years. I paid him to have lunch with me so I could learn how to apply my technical and engineering skills to the people, human skills, organizational issues. And Dr. Schein is the famous MIT professor who invented the term organizational culture. He's so famous that when I would carry his books on the airplane, people would stop me and say, oh, I had to read Dr. Schein's books when I was in college. Well, he just passed away in January. And I finally reached out to him and said, hey, pandemic's almost over. Let's get together again. I miss you. And so he said, yeah, sure. So we scheduled something for April. 2 days later, he died peacefully. Dr. Schein.
Wow.
Let's say a moment of thanks for him. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I think I can have conversation with you every day.
Okay. Come over to my house. We'll have a cup of tea.
I'll never leave. Don't invite me.
Oh, great. We'll have to get a bigger house. No problem.
It's so much fun just listening to you talking. The way you talk, the way you act, it's very, how do I say that? You feel welcome. You feel, you want to be there. Like you want to be part of that surrounding because it's inspiring, it's motivated. And I think that's what's make your programs, your workshops, everything that you do successful.
Well, we use a lot of neuroscience behind everything we do. And also, it's important to understand the best leaders have a combination of competence and warmth. So they're not all stiff and serious like that. And like they might have a llama on their shoulder. They might have a chicken purse. I don't know. So the best leaders, most effective leaders are not really distant and inaccessible. They're approachable. So I try to combine that gravitas. It's like, yeah, I have real insights and valuable perspective and experience and skills. And I can be friendly, warm, kind, and helpful.
That's the best way to be as a leader.
Yeah, why not?
So as an expert in project management and design thinking, what are some of the most common challenges you see companies facing in these areas? And how do you help them overcome them?
Well, a lot of companies are doing what is called Horizon 1. They're totally focused on today's business. How do we make money today? How do we keep the lights on, keep the wheels turning? And they might extend to, okay, how do we make it better, faster, cheaper next week, next month, next year? But they don't really invest so much in what's called Horizon 3, which is what is the breakthrough? What is the leap that we need to take? And you can't have the same people working on the Horizon 3 as the same as 1 and 2. It's like having the person who's responsible for firefighting responsible for fire prevention. No, if they're 100% on firefighting, they're never going to do fire prevention. So what you really need to do is have a separate team that's dedicated to Horizon 3 breakthroughs. For example, remember back in the day, Motorola, very famous phone company, had 30% market share, even in Japan. Well, they didn't invent the digital phone, and Nokia was able to really put them out of business. It was crazy. Motorola wasn't worried because they said, we're not going to invent a digital phone until it sounds as good as analog. And they weren't thinking about their stakeholders, the carriers who really wanted digital because of extra bandwidth. So Nokia was able to grow to 52% global market share. Can you imagine? But 52% global market share, guess what? 7 years later, it was 2%. Because in that moment, when you're 52% market share, you're busy, you're successful, you're keeping the lights on, you're keeping the revenue flowing, you're looking at maybe better, faster, cheaper, but you're not thinking, what is going to disrupt us? And how do we disrupt ourselves before our competitor does? That's why you need design thinking. That's why you need project management. And the biggest problem people face is saying, oh, but that's impossible. Oh, great. Many things seem impossible until your competitor does it. Then it's like, ooh, I wish we'd have thought of that.
So the project management team, design thinking is kind of like keep you ahead of your competition in another way.
If you separate them from the Horizon 1 and Horizon 2 day-to-day work and improvement, yes, you do need to get separate team focus on that. You can also use design thinking and project management in the day-to-day operations, Horizon 1, or in the better, faster, cheaper phase. But I think it's best applied to breakthroughs and leaps. It's like you can't make a car by designing a faster horse, incrementally, like Henry Ford said. You really need to leap to the next possibility. So sometimes I tell people, hey, this is about jumping off the cliff. And while we're falling, screaming and scared, growing wings and learning how to fly. And so that's why I like Horizon 3, design thinking, project management, to achieve what seems impossible, but is actually just outside of our perception at this time. And if you use these methodologies, you can turn impossible into difficult and then waiting for budget approval and then inevitable. And I've seen it many times over the years. One client, we've done 80 projects together over the last 20 years. And all of them, the requirement was must seem impossible. Your boss would never let you do it. Your colleagues would say you're crazy and your family would worry. And out of the 80 projects, over half of them have happened in some way in the last 20 years.
Wow. But your clients stay with you for a very long time.
Yes, I'm kind of bothered by that. I keep telling them, why don't you do it? If I was really that good, you wouldn't need to ask me to come back 20 times. And they're like, no, Kimberly, we can't do it like you. But I am determined to teach the next generation of scrappy Kimberlys to facilitate these kinds of workshops. And I already have that process going. Silicon Valley Alliances, we've got several amazing people who are as good, better facilitators than I am. And it's my pleasure to work with them.
But I think that they invite you to come back. It's not because you're not the greatest. I think it's because they don't want any less than that. They just want to stay with the greatest, unless you find someone that's the top of the top.
Oh my gosh, I'm so loving talking with you now. It's like, wow, thank you so much for your support. Yeah, I hope so. I hope they see that kind of value. And I really learn a lot from working with them as well. And for me, it's more like a partnership. And also, there's something about having an outside perspective. Like if you have someone from the inside trying to disrupt, they've got to be a little more careful. My goal is like this. I'm either going to help you achieve the crazy breakthroughs and impossible stuff, or I'm going to get fired. And I honestly don't care which one. I don't have to worry about paying my mortgage or putting a kid through college or whatever's that. I'm going to take the risks that the internal people could not take. And by the way, I do get fired sometimes. Sometimes I mean, in the past year, I was told by one big, huge company that worked with me for like almost 10 years, they said, oh, you make our participants too uncomfortable. And I said, okay, listen, you told me you wanted to think different and be innovative. Guess what? That requires you to be uncomfortable. Hire someone else. Good for you. I'm like, I'm a fish. If you want to climb a tree, get a squirrel.
Oh, oh, you can't make everyone happy in this world. That's just the way it is.
No, really, seriously, right? If everybody in the whole world approves of you, you're just like milk, warm, lukewarm. Ugh, yuck.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No.
So now you are passionate about making a meaningful, positive difference in the world.
Yes.
Can you share some example of your work, like has make a difference in client businesses and society and as a whole?
Yes. So I'll give you one example that I really like, which is one of these big companies that hired us, a global company doing business in over 100 countries. They said, oh my God, 20% of our people are quitting every year.
Wow.
I'm like, holy cow. So we worked on a project to do a small program, which we should secretly call How Not to Be a Boss Hole. But it's basically how to be a great leader, how to lead people and manage stuff, and create an effective team. And over the years, they implemented it. I mean, it's their credit. They implemented it rigorously to turn what they learned into practice. And they found out, I guess maybe only 1% of our graduates were quitting, and only 12% or 10% of the people who report to our graduates were quitting. So we improved their retention just by helping their managers learn how to lead people and create an effective team. That saved them millions of dollars, right? How much does it cost to replace somebody? If you go from 20% quitting to 1% in the graduates and 20% to 10% in the people who report to the graduates, that saves you millions of dollars a year.
Yeah, just the time to find a great talent. Take a lot.
And the loss of the intellectual property, the knowledge that's walking out the door. So that's one example. Another example is the globalization. Some of the Japanese companies I've worked with, 15 years ago, they didn't even have a company name .com website. They didn't even own that. It was .co.jp. Now those companies, they have companyname.com, they have a global website, they have MS Teams, they have places they share files, and they do virtual meetings, they have virtual whiteboards. I mean, the Japanese businesses have made about 10 or 15 years of IT progress in the last 3. I think because it was motivated by the pandemic mostly. Yes. But I've also been pushing them in that direction. I'm like, you have to. If you have a global workforce and a global team, you've got to have global tools.
Exactly. So now would you say like most of your clients are Japanese?
Yes, they are. For the last, since 2007, I have been going to Japan maybe over 100 times and then going all over the world for Japanese companies, US, Europe. Australia, Singapore, China. It's amazing. The Japanese companies have no choice but to change. So we have population is flat and declining in Japan.
Yes.
And if you're a Japanese company and you want to grow your revenue, you can't do it inside of Japan. You've got to go outside of Japan. Then you've got to hire crazy non-Japanese people like Kimberly, learn to work with us. And you know what Japan does every time there's no choice, change or die? They always change. And they are embracing becoming global companies from Japan. They become global company from Japan. They are no longer Japanese companies. And so I work with over 50 different Japanese companies. And even when I go to Japan now, it's so much more entrepreneurial. Osaka has an innovation hub. 500 Startups has a location there. There's all kinds of co-working spaces. You go visit Toyota Research Institute, Woven Planet, and it looks like you're walking into Google or Facebook in Silicon Valley. I mean, there's been so many changes. It's been incredible. Not that I've done it all, right? I've been along for the ride. I've been helping, but I think I was there inspiring some of it. Yeah, I worked with over 50 different companies, so I think I had some, like I'd call it getting infected with the Kimberly virus. There's no vaccine. There's no cure. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you are so funny. So, but how did you get into the market in the first place?
Well, I was working here in Silicon Valley. I was teaching at UC Santa Cruz Extension in the project management certificate program. I was teaching a class called Project Leadership and Communication, and I was doing it very interactive and engaging and got really great reviews from the students. So the English Language Institute saw that and said, So when they brought Japanese companies over to Silicon Valley, they started hiring me to come in and do a little 2-hour workshop or 6-hour workshop. And it was so successful that the people who they were working with in Tokyo, who were bringing people here, contacted me directly and said, please come to Japan. I said, okay. And so they started being my agent in Tokyo, introduced me to so many of their clients, worked with over 50 Japanese companies. Some I worked with for a couple of years, some for 5 years, some for 8, 9 years, this one for 16 years. So it has been amazing. And then a few years ago, that company was acquired by someone else. So we went back to, me working with my own team here and in Tokyo, Silicon Valley Alliances. So we're no longer associated with them. But the person, the executive, the woman I met who brought me in, I just had dinner with her 2 weeks ago.
Aww.
In Tokyo. And I'll never forget her. Yuko Shibata. She changed my life, transformed it for the better.
Yes. You mean one person and that one person just change it all?
Right. We help each other, make the pie bigger. Don't argue over the crumbs. Support each other.
Exactly. And I think if every woman followed that, what you just done, we would have get a lot faster.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I was so impressed about in India is like even on the streets where it looks like chaos, there's cows and goats and dogs and bicycles and motorcycles and auto rickshaws and buses and trucks, but they're all kind of honking to help each other. Oh, I'm on this side. Oh, I'm over here. Oh, be careful. I'm coming around. They're trying to help each other. And if we can all do that, if we can all just help each other, ease our paths forward and make the pie bigger and, reach up for the sky, but reach back to help those coming behind us. I think that the whole world, it's like the rising tide that lifts all boats. The whole world will be better and we will be better.
Absolutely. And what advice would you give to female entrepreneurs who are starting a new business or looking to scale their existing business?
Well, everybody won't like this, but my advice is do not let budgets be a barrier to you working with people. Several times throughout my entrepreneurial career, I've gone to a dozen of my colleagues and said, I'm launching this new product. I'm launching this new service. I'd love to give you a free prototype of it in exchange for your feedback on it. And, you go out there and then you do something for 3, 4, 5, 6 different people. You start talking about my client this, my client that, regardless of whether they paid you, and you learn something. And then some of them say, when can you come back? And some of them say, we can't afford you right now, but my friend over the other place needs to hire you. So you start to show people what you can do. You create a win-win relationship where you give them a taste of an appetizer version of what you can deliver, the value you can bring, and then they'll be hungry for more. And that's been my approach.
And I love it. And I think it's one of the best free marketing you can possibly do.
I've seen the hard sell kind of marketing. Oh, yeah, hire us and pay us $10,000. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that to people. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm sure it works, whatever. They make a lot of money. But I want to show people, here's the value. You decide. And if you don't have budget, I might still work with you because, if it's interesting and I can learn something, or me and my team can practice working together in a new environment. Like when COVID started, we didn't know how to do virtual workshops. So I was looking for any company that would let us practice on them.
and it works.
It worked. And we totally pivoted from completely in person to completely online. In 2021, revenues equaled 2019 revenues without ever getting on an airplane, which is astounding.
Awesome. Can I pick your brain every day for 5 hours?
Call me. Just text me. We'll have a WhatsApp group or a Line group. Yeah, of course.
Oh my goodness. I enjoy talking to you. So now how can someone reach out to you for any support or for your services?
Well, if you search online for Kimberly Wiefling and spell my name properly, WIEF as in fun, LING, you'll be able to find me. I have a website, KimberlyWiefling.com, that shows the main areas that I do consulting and workshops in. I've got Wiefling.com that has lots of free templates, tools, and videos you can learn from. It's all free, value added for you. And just call the police. They'll know where I am. I'm just joking. Yeah.
Hey, 901, I'm looking for Kimberly.
Yeah,
Kimberly who?
Yeah, just reach out. Email me, Kimberly@Wiefling.com, whatever. I'm always happy to have a conversation as long as people are flexible on schedule. Like I was gone working in Asia for 3 weeks last month. I'm 700 email behind. Okay. But if people are flexible on schedule, I'm very happy to have a conversation to explore possibilities.
And be nice because she's a very friendly, vibing. I'm not sure how to explain it. But you watched the recording, so you watched it. You listened to the episode. If you watch it, you can even see her face. She's like boom out there.
Yeah, boom, 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 boom. Oh, yes, please. Thank you so much, Dagilia.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for giving me the chance to have this conversation with you, for sharing your knowledge, and for bringing that positive vibe to meet this morning, and I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.